I mean, this year, aside from, Alex Pereira, like, kind of being a dominant champion, and Ilya, like, a lot of this was actually, like, champions losing their titles to people we didn't expect that to happen to. Like, all right, welcome to another episode of Two Fight Fans, where we talk about all things in combat sports. I'm one fight fan, Colin.
Colin, they did they did Canada dirty, man. They did us dirty with card.
Yeah?
And like here's the thing. UFC Apex 100, possibly the weakest Apex card I've seen this year, which I feel like we say pretty routinely,
Yep.
is coming up this weekend, and yet it looks like they're gonna give us the 1-2 punch of absolute sucking the horn of fights. Like, golly, this Edmonton card, man.
Yeah.
Well, it was bad.
I told you, this is why it may make it so that I'm, like, ready to watch Tyson and Jake Paul. Like,
You think that's going to be any better than this?
I don't know. There's my hope that Tyson knocks out Jake Paul and, like, destroys them, so.
I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see. Golly, it's a bummer. Well, walk me through this. How did you feel about the Moreno Albazi fight?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I was pleased to see Brandon Moreno come out with the win. Was it like an emphatic, like statement to the division? No, but he got the job done, and it was clean. It was crisp. I liked his striking. I liked his control. Like, I mean, he basically controlled the entire fight, which I'd like to see. And he was creative with his combinations. He picked his openings, and he wasn't like overly risky. Didn't do anything like. It was a clean fight. It was a clean way to show that he still belongs like above the rest of the division. Like, he is in title contention. Even though he himself said, like, I think I need another fight before I try to jump back into title fight. Thoughts. So, I thought he did great. But it was just a clear separation between the top of the division and everyone else right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, was this a case of Moreno looking great, or was he getting a little bit of that shine from Albazi, looking like a man coming off of back, neck, and heart surgery?
That was yeah.
It's the streets be saying that Moreno's back, but I think the streets need new eyes. That's what I'm saying. Like, this was not a good. Like, yeah, he looked fine, but he was fighting kind of a sentient heavy bag in this fight. It's kind of a bummer. I am glad the sentient heavy bag didn't knock him out, but like, you got to be becoming more correct than that. I feel like if you're going to beat Pantoja or even like Tatsuro Taira or Kaya Sakura, you know what I mean?
I mean, that would be another good fight that I'd like to see. I'd like to see Moreno and Tatsuro Taira, because like he has the same striking, or like ability as Royval, and it would be a good way for Tatsuro Taira to prove that he's learned from his last fight and he is leveled up in the way that he needs to.
That could work. The issue is he might take more damage from Moreno.
Yeah, he could
do Moreno versus Royval 3 because they're one apiece in their duology. Why not go for the trilogy?
You could, but I think wouldn't you rather have that for the title?
I think I'd prefer never to see that fight, but like, I don't really. Their last fight was a big stinker, so like, I actually kind of like Moreno versus Kai Kara France.
Oh, okay. As like a number one contender fight?
Yeah, I think so. Or
okay.
I don't know. Like, it's really going to depend on what comes out of this Kaya Sakura Pantoja fight. Because Pantoja's beaten Royval twice. He's beaten Moreno 3 times. Like, then you can have Kai Kara France come in. But if it's Kaya Sakura, then it's all fresh matchups. You can throw Royval in, then you can have Kai Kara France fight Pantoja. You can have Moreno or just jump the line.
Yeah.
Like it's then it's more exciting. But Pantoja is kind of lording over the division, slugging his way through everything. Maybe Steve Urseg versus Moreno. That could be good.
I mean, I feel like Steve Ursig needs to get like, I think that would be things to Steve Ursig to the Wolves. You know, because
Yeah.
if he drops another fight, like he's probably gonna get cut then.
Maybe they'll cut him. I don't really know. Like they don't have that much at flyweight, so they got to keep their boys. But
We've talked about this many times. They're just looking for an excuse to just get rid of the division. So
yeah. Well, all right. This is more thought that we need to give to this because this fight was terrible. Yeah. The Aaron Blanchfield Rose Namajunas fight worse. It's all right. This is a safe space. Nobody listens. We're like, you can say it.
It was
it sucked, man. It was so bad.
It was not
so
great.
bad.
It was very much a stylistic match, and every round was like whoever won the style matchup. Like if it was a striking match, then Rose. If it was a wrestling, Blanchfield. So
I bet Blanchfield outstruck her in the fifth. I thought.
Well, she was also on top for most of it. So yeah.
Was that true? Because I know one round she had like 4 minutes of control, but there was one round where it was primarily standing and like. I don't know. What did this teach? Like, what did this teach you? What did we learn out of this thing?
I mean, it's kind of like you said. Like, Rose was very successful because she was bigger in the strawweight division. Now that everyone is her size or bigger, like her tactics, her style has to change up a little bit. And kind of in the stage of her career, can she do that? And having to fight people who are bigger and stronger than you, that's a tough adjustment to start to make, right now. Although also like I don't see anything that Aaron Blanchfield demonstrated that would make me think that she could beat Shevchenko. So
yeah, right. Because it's kind of like, is she gonna out grapple Shevchenko? Like, I don't.
No,
that's not gonna fucking happen.
And then she's gonna get beat on the feet too. So like,
yeah, it's. Yeah, because I like for the first 2 rounds, like Rose was hitting her pretty clean, pretty easily. And like here's like, is this the fight where we I think just gotta kind of admit like Rose don't got it anymore? Like she just
that's tough.
Yeah, because she won the first 2 rounds pretty cleanly, and then just kind of like I don't know, like she didn't make any adjustments in the back 3 rounds. She slowed down quite a bit. And like had no urgency. She just kind of was like, well, 2 rounds of the bag, enough for me. And like that's the beginnings of a fighter who's getting dangerously close to being washed. Just being like, well, I've done my stuff and now I'm not gonna do anything else. And you're like, you gotta keep fighting. There's still time left on the clock there. Yeah. Not great. Not great. And a pretty boring fight. And also, like, yeah, what a weird thing to see the like downfall of Rose Namajunas, like the beginnings of what feels like her kind of like downward trajectory.
Yeah,
in Edmonton, like just randomly, in a co-main event spot, feels like they kind of did her dirty too. But yeah, Aaron Blanchfield called for Alexa Grasso next. After seeing Shevchenko out grapple Alexa Grasso, you think Aaron Blanchfield can do it?
I think she can possibly get her down, but not do damage. And not hold her down.
Just kind of do nothing. Just a whole bunch of nothing. Yeah. Whole bunch of nothing. That's what this card was, basically.
A whole bunch of nothing.
Yeah. Any other fights you want to call out on this thing? Like, I gotta say, did you see the Brenson Ribeiro and Machado fight?
No, so that's the thing. I only saw these 2 fights. So,
oh, dude, this is one of the worst fights I've ever fucking seen.
Oh, jeez, really?
Light heavyweight. It was so bad. It was terrible. It's Mike Malott. He's a Canadian boy. We like that, but damn, his fight sucked ass. Terrible. Performed poorly. Um, the only fights like really worth mentioning was Amin Zahabi defeating
Oh
Pedro
yeah,
Munoz.
how'd that go?
Good. Like he's got good technique, and again, like we said, like as like a hobby martial artist, I didn't know this. He was an amateur for 14 years before he went pro.
Whoa, why?
I don't know. He just was like, I'm just doing this. I don't know if I want to go pro. Right? He feels like a hobbyist martial artist. Right?
Hmm.
He's like, I'm into competing in martial arts. I like doing martial arts, but I don't really want to go pro and try to make all my money off of that.
But
So
was
I
it
think
mostly because he was like coaching with his brother, like with Faraz, or doing other things like on that side of things, or?
I have no idea. Um, as an amateur, I think he had like a record of like 14-0, but it was like over the course of 14 years. He fought
14
like,
years, yeah.
yeah. So he's like fought once a year just to kind of be like, where are my skills at? All right, they're there. I'll come back later. Um, yeah, so he's like 36 now, and he's only had 14 fights professionally.
Mhm.
Um, so like, yeah, but I mean, it was good. Like he beat Pedro Munoz, who's kind of like stalwart of this division. So that was entertaining. He had a good jab. He like had good technique. But yeah, I'm like, I don't like. Where do you really go from here? Because it feels like he's kind of treating fighting professionally in the UFC more like a hobby than, I guess, a
Like just
career.
to like build up his resume to add to like a coaching gig or
Maybe.
something, maybe.
I don't even know if he coaches. Um, let me like, dude, his Wikipedia page says fucking nothing, so I got no idea. Yeah, yeah, I think he's the younger brother of TriStar head trainer Faraz. That's all I can see. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he is coaching or he's helping run the school at TriStar.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But yeah, that was kind of cool to see. And then the only fight worth mentioning at all was that Victor Henry Charles Jourdain fight.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
cool shit coming in. Like Victor Henry is kind of like a pressure fighter, and we talked about like dirty boxing. He just couldn't get inside. Charles Jourdain, really big, was lighting him up with a jab and then some like really cool foot sweeps. They both, I think, foot swept each other like while in the clinch. And then
Okay.
Charles Jourdain snatched up a choke, and it was like that. That was pretty cool. You only see a lot of like battling for foot sweeps in the UFC, so I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, cool. But it wasn't worth sitting through the rest of this. Did you see this was
Yeah.
like the third longest card um, overall in UFC
Whoa.
history, like
Why?
runtime wise? Because everything was a fucking decision, man. The
I see
heavyweight fight
one,
went to a
two, three,
decision,
4, 5, 6. Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah.
and you had a main and co-main that were both 5 rounds.
Oh, right,
So
right.
yeah, just I mean, if this isn't the embodiment of Edmonton as a city, I don't know what is. Just long and boring and nothing to look forward to at the end.
Brutal, man.
Yeah,
Brutal.
that's how it is, dude. I didn't decide to build a city fucking close to the Arctic Circle to find oil in the flat ground. That's what Edmonton did. Yeah. So, yeah, this fight card sucked. I'm not afraid to say it. Because I think moving into 2025, we gotta start picking and choosing. Like, do we even need to start watching some of these cards? Should we just start having episodes where we talk about other things, right? Where we're just like, hey, let's talk about, I don't know, like a fight I watched like in my backyard or like out the window. Like I saw this old guy punch this young guy. Like that'd be more entertaining, or Jet Li movies or something. Because these fight cards aren't cutting it. They're just not cutting it. Uh, and in the spirit of not cutting it, we have to talk about UFC Apex 100.
All right,
Dana
all right.
White during COVID said they were going to move out of the Apex. They weren't going to have so many fights in the Apex. Supposedly, the Apex was to close down this November, but they had to squeak in, if they are even closing it down, their 100th fight card on this thing. And wouldn't you know it, it's headlined by number 15 welterweight Neil Magny and unranked Carlos Prates. Like, just what an abysmal headliner.
Yeah.
Um,
What is this?
like, is there any name or fight on this card that is even worth like 2 looks at?
Not really, no. Like for being a 100th fight night, Apex, whatever, you would think they would have done something as at least a number one contender fight for one of division.
I mean, they have 1, 2, 3. They only have 4 ranked fighters on this card, and none of them are higher than the 13th ranked position in their division.
Jesus.
And it's
Brutal.
women's strawweight, women's strawweight, and welterweight. That's a bad look, man. That's a bad
That
look.
is.
Though there is
I
a
mean,
man on this card named Gaston, which I'm about it.
sweet.
And he's fighting Cortavius Romeus, which I'm like, that's dope.
Gaston Bolaños versus
Bolaños.
Avius Romeus.
Yeah,
Jesus.
man. That sounds like I'm playing a Fallout game and I've made up a character and I'm going up against Caesar's Legion. It sounds cool. I like it. I'm into it. It'll probably suck though, so I will not be watching.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I guess we have to look back. Like, what is the US the Apex like meant to you as we've watched this, especially because since 2021, basically, this has been like kind of the predominant. Like, it's been a real fixture in UFC fandom and MMA fandom, whereas all of our years prior to 2021, it's got to be so weird for new people who are getting into the sport or got into sport during COVID, because that's just like a fixture of like, oh yeah, the Apex, of course. That was not a thing before.
No.
So yeah, I mean, like, do you have like thoughts on the Apex? Good, bad, ugly? Should we demolish it, burn it down? Like, collect the insurance money?
I mean, we've kind of talked about this a little bit before, but okay, the original use of it, I think, was good. Like, using it during COVID, when we couldn't do anything else, and it's like, okay, this is a way for fighters to still fight, to move the sport forward, to have them, like, make a living still, to do something. Like, sure, like, I liked that use of it, but it really should just be, like, the site of its developmental league. Like, name it whatever you want, like, Tough or Dana White's Contender Series, whatever. That's what it should be used for, and have some fans, open it up, have it an exclusive 100-person seating, whatever you want to do. But it's not supposed to be like, if you're going to just relegate, unranked fighters to it, then don't put it as one of your main events. Do it as like, a Friday night random card, that's like to bring in possible new people into the big show, or to have your tough fights on it. That's it. Like, it doesn't need to have any meaningful fights because it's clearly not,
No.
But you shouldn't have it in prime time either, because it's just going to water down the viewing.
Yeah. So the contract with ESPN Plus is up. Is it at the end of 2025?
Guys, is it already?
Yeah, I think so. And so they're making a big push to see like where else they will do it. And Dana White's come out and said like it might be on multiple platforms, right? Just like college football, it's not all on one channel. You can see some games on ESPN Plus. You can see some. You got to go to like ABC to watch some games. Blah 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 blah. I wonder if they'll be able to get a higher premium per card. And so then they won't be beholden to, like, what is it, 48 events or 42 events a year?
Mm.
And, like, if we might move away from that and get closer to, like, 35 so that we can just kind of – because, like, man, would any of these divisions really hurt if we cut every single person, like, on these UFC Apex? Like, I mean, like, seriously, like, I know it's, like, kind of rough, but, like, these I mean, a lot of these people are getting paid 10 and 10 too.
Yeah.
But like these are not like great fights to watch. And the UFC like clearly doesn't care about them. So yeah, it's like I don't know. And but I guess just as a fan, we just have to go like, we don't need to watch this. Like, we don't have, it's like you don't have to watch every Marvel movie that comes out. Like, you can just not. So yeah, like, but man, this one is such a stinker. Like, it's actually depressing to like look at this card. I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah.
I barely know anyone, and like most likely none of these people are going anywhere. Rainier de Ritter is on there. He's their middleweight champion of one championship. They just like left. So that's like kind of interesting. But again, like the debut of one's former middleweight champion against Gerald Mearshart is the second fight on the main card, and there are 4 fights after it. Like, why is that not the headliner against like a ranked opponent at middleweight? Why is it against Gerald Mearshart? It doesn't make sense. It really bums me out, man. Like,
Yeah.
it legitimately bums me out. I'm like, well, what happened here? Terrible shit. Terrible shit. Anyway, what else is there to talk about? I mean, like, we just went through one bad card. We're not going to talk about another bad card.
Well, let me ask you, what is your solution for it? Or even just a totally new thing. Like, when you were talking about that, I was thinking like, what if we like, I mean, and I don't know who would pay for this, but I'm sure someone would. Like, if they basically just had like, these are extra fights. If we cut it down to, like you said, 30 pay-per-view or whatever events throughout the year. Those are your bigger events with actual names, championship fights, whatever there. And then you just used the rest of these as like overflow, and it was just like behind a UFC paywall or whatever.
Yeah.
And they just held them here. Like, I'm sure someone would pay for that.
Yeah.
I fucking won't, but
yeah, like, it'll be interesting to see. I guess, like, there is this weird thing of like, I just wish that, like, if you're gonna do pay-per-views, then like we said, we have 5 or 4 people that are ranked within the UFC division fighting on this, and it's like, I don't really feel like I need to pay attention to it. But then you also go to like this UFC 309 fight card, and you're like, John Jones, Stipe, whatever you say about that, like, there's at least a title somewhat attached. Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler, good. Karine Silva versus Vivian Araujo, like, it's ranked. But then, like, Chris Weidman versus Eric Anders, like, 2 ultra-washed people. Mauricio Ruffy versus James Lolentop. Who the fuck is that? Marcin Tybura versus Jonata Denise. Like, what are these fights? Like, why are these on a pay-per-view? Move those fights off, put those on the Apex, and then move the ranked fights from the Apex onto the pay-per-view. Like, having some quality control per pay-per-view, like, event in a different city and then Apex. So it's a clear delineation where I can go, like, I basically know I never need to watch an Apex. But I also just think the UFC never will do it because their business model is just selling content and, like, number of hours rather than pay-per-view buys or gates. But, like, I don't know. Just do less cards. Like, just do less cards. Or, right, if the Apex cards were, like, on, I don't know, but like, if those were all on Netflix, like, that's fine, because it's the only streaming service that, like, basically everyone has, right?
Yeah.
I don't have to get ESPN Plus and then, like, only watch fights and then maybe 1 out of every 10 hockey games on there, because that's the only place I can get it. Like, having just all Apex cards being like, that's on Netflix, and then all the bigger ones and pay-per-views I can buy through some other means, whether it's Amazon Prime or if it is fine. But at least, like, I know, like, I'm getting those cards.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think mostly it's just like, fights usually feel a lot bigger, like the fights that are like really televised and marketed with the same package as a pay-per-view. So it's so weird to have it like just placed on an inferior product. Like,
Right.
this sucks. I don't like this feeling. But that might be my issue. Like, I should just get over it. Or just go outside, do something else with my time. Yeah. Anyway. What a bummer.
Well, speaking of Amazon Prime, I got something for you this weekend as well. Well, actually, technically Friday. One championship.
Okay.
And there's a few people fighting. So the main event is, we've talked about him before, Anatoly Malkin is defending it's one of 3 of his championships, the heavyweight world
Nice.
his heavyweight championship.
Okay.
Rotang is fighting again. He's defending his flyweight title.
Okay.
His Muay Thai title. And Cade Rutolo is having a lightweight MMA fight, it looks like.
Oh, shit.
So, and that's not
bad.
Mikey Musumeci has has severed ties with one championship now.
Yes. I mean, this
So
is the thing that is, like, kind of, um, upsetting, is, like, people like, Renier de Ritter just left, like, I think people are just kind of dropping off of one championship, you
yeah.
know? And they moved their headquarters to Thailand, and now the majority of their cards are Muay Thai or kickboxing over MMA and grappling.
Mhm.
So it feels like One Championships is just slowly becoming just like a based in Thailand Muay Thai organization,
But that's what
which
we
is
said. Like,
cool.
hey, just do Muay Thai. That's exciting. We like that.
Like, take it other places, like not just like in Thailand.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it is cool to see Cade Rulatolo in an MMA fight. Always exciting to see Rodtang fight and Anatoly Malakin. My hope is that Anatoly Malakin will leave one, because it sounds like all of these guys can just like leave and one's contracts don't hold up in a court of law. So
Mhm.
that everyone's going and signing elsewhere. Get him to sign to fight Francis Ngannou, because we need a fresh body for Francis that has a name, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think Anatoly Malakin's the guy, because all the other heavyweights are tied up in UFC. So that's kind of my hope.
Mhm.
Yeah, but actually, this is not a bad card, right? Or at least those like one,
Those
two.
three.
There's like
Yeah.
three. Adriano Moraes is fighting too. Like that's fun.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but again, like they do just such a bad job of like building up these people to like
Oh
let
yeah.
me know
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
who are these people? Should I care about them? Um, yeah. So it is cool, and like I'll definitely check the Malakin fight and Rod Tang. And then yeah, probably Cade Rulatolo. But yeah,
Yeah.
de- people are just dropping off of that organization, so it's hard to like take it seriously. Um, man, weird, weird shit. But also this weekend. Well, so that's on Friday, right? Or is that Saturday?
Friday, I believe.
Okay, Saturday. You got a double header on pay per view in Philly. We've got Jerome Boots Ennis defending
Oh
his
yeah.
IBF welterweight title. It's a pretty unnecessary mandatory rematch against.
I was gonna say, yeah. When I was looking into this, they fought in January of last year.
Yeah, and Boots beat him pretty soundly. But
Yeah.
Boots is a good fighter, and so hopefully, rather than getting a unanimous decision, he will be able to finish this guy. Yeah, Jerome Boots Ennis from Philly. It's cool that they're going to his hometown to let him fight there. Take note, UFC. And Ennis is got some star power, and he's a really entertaining, good fighter to watch. He's a switch hitter from both sides, can fight phenomenally from both stances, hits
Mhm.
pretty hard. Has 32 wins, 29 by knockout. Very very good. We like Boots Ennis on this podcast.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Um,
He
and
impressed
then
last time.
yeah, we have a fight. The co-main event is Jesse Bam Rodriguez, and you've never seen Bam Rodriguez, huh?
No, I have not. And unfortunately, I did not. I was not able to do my homework to watch any of his fights.
Yeah, so he is a flyweight and super flyweight
Ooh. Ooh.
fighter. Little
Nice.
tiny dude. Super defensive. Does not get touched. I don't want to say like akin to Floyd Mayweather because he fights differently. But this guy like does not get touched and touches people consistently. He's got 20 wins, only 13 by knockout. But for such a defensively sound fighter, it's pretty impressive. He's only 24 years old. Like, it
Whoa.
does feel like this is one of these people that you go, like, get on the bandwagon now, because this kid's
Okay.
probably going to become something absolutely
Wow.
ginormous.
Where's he
Um,
from?
I think is it like Austin, Texas? Let's find
Oh,
out.
he's American.
San Antonio, Texas. Yeah.
Wow.
Um,
We have a smaller, uh, like superstar in the rising here.
yeah. Yeah.
Wow. All right. All
He's
right.
he's pretty good. Yeah, so he's phenomenal. Fights out of southpaw. He's all right, 5'4", little tiny man. And yeah, he's great to watch. Like, extremely, sometimes defensive fighters, can get a bad rap for being like, all they do is kind of block things, or they clinch a lot. Like, no, he's pretty entertaining to watch. Like, it's pretty in the way that Anderson Silva entered the Matrix and could never get touched. Bam Rodriguez kind of fights like that. So this should be a good watch. This should be great.
Yeah.
He's fighting Pedro Guevara, and Guevara has got significantly more experience than him. Just in his wins alone, he's got more than double the wins. But fights overall, he's got more than double the fights as well. Actually, 47 fights versus 20 fights. So yeah, an older, he's 35 years old, Mexican flyweight boxer. So it'll be kind of like a tough nose Mexican style against Bam Rodriguez, who is just kind of floating around out there like a ghost, never to be caught. So that's a cool doubleheader of a boxing match. It doesn't have kind of the sex appeal of a Usyk versus Fury, as unsexy as both of those men are. But yeah, it's worth a watch this weekend, I think.
Let me ask you really quickly about this fighter Bam. He fights at if super flyweight or flyweight, that's what, 118?
Super flyweight is
150. Oh damn. Okay.
Because I was gonna say, tiny man.
Would he be able? But he's only 20 something. Like, come on,
24.
He hasn't even. Yeah, that's nothing still. Like, you don't even have like your full like size yet. What about him and Inoue?
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue is he's too young right now.
Yeah.
To get like an Inoue fight, like he needs more, and he needs to fill out. Right, he's 24. He's only had 20 fights in total.
Oh, okay.
It's like just at the peak of his power, and Inoue has the chance to move up and be the first man.
Which he
unify.
might.
Yeah.
Did you see his big deal that he just signed?
I didn't see a deal. I know he has a fight coming up, but I didn't see he signed a deal. What happened?
He has a fight coming up, but he just signed basically a 20 million sponsorship deal with Riyadh Season.
Riyadh Season. All right.
Yeah. Which
has
I didn't.
Yeah. Come out.
Yep.
Who does he want to? Who is he trying to make?
They haven't said anything yet, but.
All right.
But well, yeah.
Hopefully he moves up, or even if he doesn't unify, let's get him up and let's get Lomachenko to cut 2 or 3 extra pounds, and let's get a Loma Inoue fight. That's what I'm about.
Man, that would be. Oh my god.
That's what I'm about. Yeah, it's well, because I know Inoue and Canelo were kind of the two people that Turki Al-Sheikh didn't seem to be able to get to sign to the fights that he wanted. But if Inoue's moved over, maybe we'll also see Canelo move over. I don't know. But yeah, no, I think Bam Rodriguez is just too early in his career to be going and trying to take on Inoue. So because Inoue is such a huge matchup puncher that if you rush someone into fighting him and then they get shellacked, you could irreparably damage the trajectory. So no, I want to see Loma versus Inoue.
That would be so good. Oh my god.
I know, right? That's the fight to fucking make. Let's let Bam Rodriguez build his potential and star power and become when Inoue and Loma are gone, we'll have Bam Rodriguez to enjoy as kind of the king of a lower weight division. Let's not spoil it yet. Because Inoue still got big game hunting to go after in these divisions above him. Yeah. Yeah, man. That's I mean that's this weekend. We had a bad fight card this past weekend, and then up and coming. We got some stuff at 1. Hey, a couple of cool boxing fights. Nothing that I'm jumping at the bid for. The worst UFC card all year, probably. Just absolutely brutal. And then what do we have coming up next week?
The following weekend?
Yeah.
You mean? Yeah, we got your like you said, your senior abuse card.
Cards, 2 senior abuse cards.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's should we call the AARP or something? What do we do for I don't know what we talk about next week. We're definitely going to cover the John Jones Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler. Do we talk about Jake Paul and Mike Tyson? You might be right. We might be starved. We might be hungry for something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bummer. It's a fucking bummer, man. Like, I don't. I said this before, but like in hindsight, like for this year, now that we like it's basically over. Without Alex Pereira and Max Holloway, like what would this year would this have been one of the weakest years in UFC history?
Yes, but you would have had a few things that really stuck out and maybe it would have made them even more special because of that. So, the start of Ilya Taporia was this
Yeah.
year, early this year.
Yeah.
Like it or not, the start of fucking DDP was this year too. Like,
oh, that's right.
He beat Sean Strickland and Izzy.
Mm-hmm.
Had
the momentary excitement that Robert Whittaker might make it back to the title.
The rise and quick fall of Robert Whittaker, yeah. I mean, a lot of this year, actually, if you think about it, it was just the older generation, which isn't even that old. It's like the generation that was like coming up during COVID, I guess, or got famous during COVID times, is like on their way out now.
Yeah.
And being replaced by a new generation, and some of which are like very exciting, and some of it are just like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, it is weird though, because it feels like there weren't that many big moments this year, and you said like maybe it would have elevated these moments, but these moments did happen.
Yeah,
like Ilya Taporia winning the title, and like I know in Spain he's a huge deal, but in North America it feels like, and like all right, the knockout of Max was kind of the bigger deal.
yeah.
Like DDP, I think we find him more fascinating than the general public does, because it's kind of like we're like, what the fuck is happening with this guy? But like his fight against Israel Adesanya and his winning against Israel Adesanya, I haven't seen that talked about like as a moment really this year at all. It like, kind of came and went. Like the only ones that really have stuck have been Alex Pereira knocking people out, and then the Justin Gage Max Holloway fight, and then everything else has been such short-term memory. It just kind of devolves into nothingness.
I mean, this year, aside from Alex Pereira like kind of being a dominant champion, and Ilya, like a lot of this was actually like champions losing their titles to people we didn't expect it to happen to, or like in maybe unexciting ways, like Sean O'Malley being a very flashy and knockout artist, just being wrestle fucked by Merab, and again, I don't want to take away anything that Merab did, because it was very impressive, like how he did it. He basically made it a very one-sided affair. But I don't think anyone would think like, oh yeah, the bantamweight division is now controlled by Merab, And same thing with the welterweight division, Bilal Muhammad like coming in.
Yeah. That's exactly. Well, and like even that Merab fight, like the big thing that we like should be thinking of is the Sphere event, but like I barely remember that event.
Oh yeah. That was a pretty big letdown.
Yeah. So yeah, it was the turnover. Dricus du Plessis beating Sean Strickland. What other turnover was there? There wasn't too much. Bilal beating Leon.
Yeah.
Dricus beating Israel. Valentina Shevchenko fighting Alexa Grasso. I forgot that one also happened. That was a terrible
coming
fight.
back.
Juliana Pena defeating Raquel Pennington. Ugh.
Yeah.
And what we have to look forward to is John Jones versus Stipe and Pantoja versus Kaya Sakura. Which that one's a cool fight, but
yeah.
Jones Stipe, yeah.
I'm praying Pereira decides to like get tired of side questing and will come in and save the day and knock out Ankalaev, just to put a fucking exclamation point at the end of 2024, because then 2024 will be the year of Pereira. Like,
I mean, it might already be the year of Pereira. Like,
yeah,
without him, like what? Like, I legitimately like the UFC doesn't have. Besides the Max knockout, it doesn't have a highlight. It's a year in which it would have generated a single highlight, which is kind of crazy.
Which for having so many fighters too,
Yes.
like, how
And
is that possible? Like, how? I
yeah,
don't I don't get it. Like,
they they don't give a shit. Like they just aren't. It's like they just aren't trying. They're just putting together shit cards.
is it that, or do you think, like, just the general meta is, like, weak? Like, we've talked about this before, like, are we in a time period where the divisions are just weaker than they have been for whatever reason?
Oh yeah, I think like historically, um, the divisions are a lot like certain divisions are a lot weaker, right? Like women's bantamweight, it's very clear that Raquel Pennington had lost to Holly Holm, she had lost to Misha Tate, she had lost to Amanda Nunes, and now these people have either aged out or retired, and so now
Mhm,
she take you know takes the title. Juliana Pena had lost to Valentina Shevchenko. She had lost to Amanda Nunes, right? And then moving of division or retiring, so she takes over. Like as much as Alex Pereira is really cool, light heavyweight is like the weakest it's been ever, right?
yeah,
We used to have like a young Glover Teixeira, Ryan Bader, Phil Davis, Alexander Gustafsson, John Jones, Daniel Cormier. Half of those people would have wrestled Alex Pereira to death instantly. You
mhm,
know, like you don't think Daniel Cormier or John Jones or Phil Davis or Ryan Bader wouldn't be able to like in their prime take down Alex Pereira pretty easily.
mhm,
Um, yeah, like Alexander Gustafsson too. Like was like a really slick boxer who was lighting people up and had like good footwork for light heavyweight. And now like the next best we can do is Yuri Prochazka, who has never learned a defensive technique in his life. So it's a pretty weak division.
yeah.
Um, yeah, like we don't have young Stipe, young Junior Dos Santos at heavyweight. We do have Tom Aspinall, but that's like about it.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, like it is slightly weaker, but then like lightweight is super deep. We still have action fighter Dustin Poirier, Charles Oliveira, Islam Makhachev, Arman Saryukian. Like we have rejuvenated Max Holloway in that division. The Dan Hooker coming back. Like it's still a really great division. Bantamweight is still really good. Featherweight is still. I mean, it's got Ilya Topuria, like this ascendant talent coming through. Flyweight's been entertaining. I think it's just the UFC doesn't build up these events and they don't build up the fights, right? We used to have like 3 to 6 months build to big pay-per-view fights and
Yeah.
major fights. So it built it up narratively, but it also allowed the fighters to like make it more of a fight. Alexander Pantoja versus Steve Ursig as a title fight was made like 3 weeks before the card happened. They weren't like training specifically for one another, and no like ascension of Steve Ursig in a major way. So it just was like, okay, this is just content to fill the airways.
That is a really good point in that, like, there have been a bunch of cards where they were like they announced the card, but no fighters. So we're like, what is this card going to be? Like,
Yeah. Oh
so it's
yeah.
hard
Well,
to get excited about it.
yeah. Like I mean, it was the last fight that was announced for UFC 300 was the main event with Alex Pereira and Jamal Hill, and so they both were coming in on short notice. Jamal Hill expediting his blown hamstring or blown Achilles recovery to be in that fight. It's like
Yeah.
that's not. You get the best fights when there's decent promotion over a longer period of time, ideally 3 to 6 months, and the fighters have had ample time to get a full training camp to prepare for one another. That's when the fights are most engaging because you see the best of the fighters rather than fuck it, this person just came off the couch. That sometimes can be entertaining when it's like Alex Pereira, and then we go, holy shit, he did this on short notice, but that typically doesn't like generate the best fights.
Mhm.
Um, like I wonder if the Khalil Roundtree fight with Alex Pereira was made better because Khalil Roundtree, even though he had that drug suspension, he knew as soon as I can come back and they make the fight, they're gonna put me in before Ankalaev. And so he was probably training that whole time in preparation for Alex Pereira, so he could have a good showing. Um, yeah, it's I mean, what this says is that this was the year of boxing, right? We had Inoue fight multiple
Yeah,
times. Yeah,
we've said that, you know. That
yeah.
yeah.
So
Who,
anyway,
who I can't even remember who dropped out of 300 that caused Alex Pereira to come in. Was
no
that
one.
supposed to be?
They never announced. There was
Oh,
never an announcement of what it was.
Oh,
So
wow.
there was rumors that it was supposed to be Connor as the
Yeah,
headliner.
yeah.
And then they didn't do that because then that was 303. And then there was rumor that it would be Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira. And then there was a rumor that it would be they were trying to get Lee. This was before Leon won his title or after? Oh yeah, Leon, but they didn't want to give it to Bilal Muhammad, so they were seeing if they could like leapfrog and have Shavkat Rakhmonov or somebody else come in.
Mm.
But it sounds like, yeah, it sounds like they tried to make a bunch of deals and just like couldn't get anything to go through. Maybe was John Jones also like maybe he was in the mix as well, and then he had like torn his pec or something. Anyway, but yeah, it sounded like they never announced anything because it sounds like they just couldn't make anything. Everyone was injured or like they already had them booked somewhere else. And yeah, they didn't want to budge on certain things. So
Mhm.
yeah. So yeah. So was born Alex Pereira saving 300, 303. What was the 307? It doesn't sound like he'll do 310.
I know. I
Yeah.
want it so bad.
Yeah. But
I would love that shit.
yeah, he needs the time off, right? Like
He does. He deserves
yeah.
it. Like shit.
So yeah, let's let the goddamn man rest. But they need to find like another fight for this 310. Because otherwise it's just Pantoja, Kyaskura, and then Volkov and Cyril gone.
Boy.
Like, yeah, find Shavkat Rakhmonov, someone to fight. Yeah, something. Anyway, yeah. So who and like there was like apparently a rumor that like Ronda Rousey was maybe coming back for UFC 300. So like that was
Oh,
also
really?
one where like maybe it was gonna be Ronda versus Kayla Harrison. Like who knows? Whatever it was, all of their plans basically fell through, and they
Yeah.
just like started like doing a grab bag. They're like, BMF title, Max and Justin. Which like leading up to it, we're like, that's a cool fight, but also like, why would you do this with Max and Justin? This is such a weird fight. Yeah. So anyway, I like we're gonna have to do a predictions episode at some point for like 2025. But like I like it's gonna be shaky moving into 2025. I don't know what the fuck they're gonna do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Though it does look like the first card of the year will be Arman Tsarukyan versus Islam Makhachev, not Dricus Duplessis versus Sean Strickland too, which was such a terrible. The first fight was so bad, and it was the very first card in January of this year. So I was like, man, you're just gonna go for the repeat, huh? You're just gonna do the same shit again in
Yeah.
January. Lord. Yeah. Anything else to talk about? I don't really know. Like
No.
I'm looking at this Paul Tyson fight, and I'm looking at this Stipe Jones, and I'm just going, golly, where did we go wrong?
Yeah. I mean, it's like we talked about. October was great. October was great for
Yes,
us. And now I
the
think you
dark
said this
times.
earlier. We blew our wad all in October.
Yeah, man, and now it's dark times. Yeah, fuck. Quick, like early prediction. I know we're not talking about 309 yet, but we're gonna have to get there at some point.
Yep.
What do you think would be for the UFC? What do you think would be the worst outcome of the Jones Miocic fight?
The worst outcome? A fucking
For
draw somehow.
like a really bad draw.
Yeah. Or
Mm.
like a disqualification somehow,
Ooh,
like a
that'd be good.
foul, just like
John
it,
Jones
or
eye pokes, and then it's a no
yeah,
contest.
yeah, it's a no contest at the end because they're like tied 2-2, and he
Mhm.
he eye pokes him in the fifth round.
But then they could just run it back and headline another pay-per-view with that
Yeah,
and go like
again,
unfinished
the
business.
worst, the
Yeah.
worst.
But that not for the UFC, for you and I. But the UFC then, hey, they've got a whole nother headliner lined up.
Ugh.
Would it be worse if Stipe knocked out John Jones in like 5 seconds and then retires on the spot? It's like I'm done.
No, I
No?
think no, because I think that would be like it. It would be literally like a Rocky movie where an old man who had already a storied career and already said would be like, "I'm good," comes back, defeats the greatest, you know, fighter in like the modern era, and says like, "All right,
Oh,
great, I'm good." And then he just say like, "Hey, like the rest of this division, go ahead, Tom Aspinall, do your thing. You are the new king of the division. Alex Pereira, if you want to come up and make history, you can too. But I did what I need to do. I'm good.
Well, see, but now you're positing the best scenario.
Yeah,
right.
That's what you said. Like you said if Stipe, if would this be the worst thing if Stipe did? It's like no, absolutely not.
Oh no, what I'm saying is like let's say he knocks him out and then he gets on the mic and he's like,
oh well, yeah,
walks away. Like, and then like Dana White going insane for months about like John Jones is the best fighter ever and fighting with like the media. And then there's no handoff to Tom Aspinall. And then they go like, okay, well, what do we do? Like, is Jones going to retire? Or like, do we have Jones fight Aspinall now? Even though neither one of them can claim the like lineal heavyweight championship or anything.
If Jones gets knocked out, I don't see a world where he can come back from that.
No.
Like, he has not had to deal with loss in like a real way. And just the way he handles things, I don't think he could handle like a real loss, like a knockout loss.
Oh man, you're getting me excited for this though. It's not gonna happen, but now I'm excited. I'm like, John Jones getting knocked out. That's cool. Yeah. I do think if Stipe wins and then retires, like that would be the worst thing with the for the UFC, because I think they know that both of them will retire after this, but I think they're like kind of banking on John Jones, because then they can just like I don't know, like hope that like they can leech John Jones like aura energy and like try to get him in the stands every now and then. But like if Stipe, who they like fought with routinely, wins, I think they'd be upset.
Yeah, I mean, if John Jones wins, then it goes and then he retires as like a quote unquote like undefeated fighter. You know, then it's just like it just kind of goes back to that whole like who's going to be the greatest, and you have to like you can't measure up against it. Then you know, it's kind of like the whole. Yeah, but like no one will ever, like the further away we get from it, I think the more like mystical that becomes, you know?
Maybe.
And it's kind of like the same with Floyd Mayweather right now too, you know? Like people consider him the greatest of all time fighter, but at the same time it's like, okay, but your last like 10 fights, what were they, you know?
Yeah. It's I mean, anyone who says Floyd Mayweather is the greatest fighter obviously doesn't know what they're talking about. But
that's my point right there.
Yeah, I know. There's donkey brains all over the place, and people are saying that. I'm pulling for Stipe though. Yeah.
Well, I didn't know you're pulling for Stipe. You're also a John Jones hater. Like you are a certified hater. Like
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't really like people that like hit their wives and hit pregnant women with their car and fucking do shit like that. That's not cool in my book. I like a man who fights fires and like dresses in a pink tutu for his daughter's birthday. I'm like, that's cool. That's a man. Like let's go, Stipe. Yeah. So that's the worst / best case scenario for the UFC for the Jones Stipe fight. What's the worst / best case scenario for the Paul Tyson fight?
Oh God, everything about it is bad. Best case scenario for me.
No, not for you. Not for you. For Netflix. For the organization. What do you think the execs at Netflix?
For Netflix?
Yeah, what do you think they're hoping?
If the fight happens, that's the best case scenario, because no matter what, it's going to get eyes. Yes.
No.
For Netflix, are you kidding me?
You think if Jake Paul comes out there and starches an old man in like 5 seconds and Mike Tyson falls to the ground stiff as a board and gets up and is like slurring his words, that Netflix will be like pumped about that? You think they won't be like, oh shit, we just televised an old man getting punched really fucking hard in the face, and people probably are gonna be grossed out?
I don't think that's how it will be spun. I think people will just focus more on Jake Paul, and then they can from a business standpoint, they can just rally behind him. Jake Paul can take whatever fight he fucking wants on Netflix now, and he can just continue to do this.
Bro, you know how many boomers are gonna be like, I watch Friends 90 hours a day on Netflix and Big Bang Theory, and I was upset and appalled to see Mike Tyson be knocked out by a young whippersnapper. Like you can't spin that shit towards the boomers. Like you're
Right.
like
This is the same crowd that also hated Mike Tyson for years and years and years.
yeah, I know, but now they all love Mike Tyson. He had his one-man show on Broadway. They're like, yeah, he's reformed. He was in those Hangover movies. I laughed. There was that big man, Zach Gallifan. I liked him, right? Like that's what they say. Yeah. Uh, no, I think you're crazy. I think if Mike Tyson like gets absolutely starched in like 100 million people's homes, and like we just watch like a really old man, people I think will be upset by that. They'll be like, "Why the fuck did you let this happen? Why did you put this on?" Yeah, and like if Mike Tyson, I think if Mike Tyson absolutely starts Jake Paul, that's the best thing for Netflix, and probably Jake Paul.
Mm.
I think like he can spin that and go like, "Oh man, like I lost to like this like living legend, but like I'm the only one who puts on these great fights, and look how great it turned out." Like all
Yeah,
the
yeah.
comeuppance was gotten. I gave Mike Tyson one final big win. I'm the savvy businessman, and then a bunch of weirdos are gonna run to him and be like, "Tell us what other fights to make. Tell us what other things to do."
Mm.
That's what I think.
All right, all right.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, well, we'll talk about all those fights and so much more later this week / next week. Because yeah, boy howdy, there's fucking nothing much else going on in the world of fight sports. It's gonna be lean times, Colin. Lean times for the rest of the year. So we're gonna have to get creative. Maybe we'll go watch The Carpenter multiple times. Yeah, that's that about does it. This has been Two Fight Fans podcast. I'm One Fight Fan Stuart.
I'm your other Collin.
And any parting thoughts, words?
Nah, like good luck these next couple weeks.
Yeah, it's gonna be rough, Fight fans. Like just hang in there. We're gonna watch Jones and Stipe fight. We'll watch Chris Weidman be executed. Yeah, Jim Miller's back. Old crusty as fuck Jim Miller.
You know, that fight card might be just the fight card of eye pokes.
Dude, it might. Like, who else we got on here? Michael Chandler, he's a dirty fighter. Paul Craig's not a dirty fighter, but we got Bo. Man, keep pushing Bo Nickel, like in these middleweight hilts. We'll get to it next week. Can't be talking about it right now. All right, bye everybody.
Bye bye.